Remember reading John Steinbeck's The Pearl in school? It's a classic, right? And most of us probably walked away thinking we understood its message pretty clearly. Well, today we're going to peel back the layers on this famous story, and I have a feeling what we find might just flip everything you thought you knew about it.
On the surface, it all seems pretty straightforward. You've got this poor fisherman, Kino, who finds an incredible pearl, and you think his life is made, but instead, it completely destroys him and his family. It feels like a classic parable, a cautionary tale about how greed will ruin you.
But what if that's not the whole picture? What if this gut-wrenching story of loss and destruction is actually, secretly, a story about hope? Yeah, I know, it sounds a little out there, but it's a fascinating question that challenges the way we've been taught to read this book.
To even get to that big question, we first need to make sure we're all on the same page. Let's start with a quick rundown of the story as most of us remember it. We need to build that foundation before we can start digging deeper.
So it all unfolds pretty quickly. First, disaster strikes. Kino's infant son, Coyotito, gets stung by a scorpion. The rich colonial doctor refuses to help because they're poor, so Kino is desperate. And then, bam, he finds it, the pearl of the world. But this discovery just unleashes this wave of greed, not just in the town, but inside Kino himself. And all of that leads directly to the final, heartbreaking tragedy where Kino loses everything, including his son, and just throws the pearl back into the ocean.
Okay, now let's peel back that first layer, because this story doesn't just happen in a vacuum. Steinbeck was setting it against a very real and very brutal historical backdrop. The world of the pearl is deeply rooted in Mexican history. After getting independence from Spain in 1821, the country went through absolute turmoil, which eventually led to a long dictatorship called the Porfiriato. This whole period created such massive, crushing inequality that it all boiled over into the Mexican Revolution in 1910. That's the world Steinbeck is dropping us into. And the scale of this inequality, it's just staggering. By 1910, 90%, that's 90, of Mexico's rural population, who were mostly indigenous, had lost their land. It was all snapped up by a few thousand wealthy families and foreign companies. It was a complete disaster, leaving people worse off than they had been a century before. And as Steinbeck brilliantly weaves this history right into the story, that quote there, it's not just about one arrogant doctor. It perfectly captures the systemic racism and the dehumanization that people like Kino faced every single day. He wasn't just poor. He was part of an entire class of people who were treated as less than human. So for him, the pearl wasn't just a lottery ticket. It was a chance to finally escape that system. So we're seeing this isn't just about personal greed. It's about systemic oppression. Now, let's go even deeper. Let's peel back layer number 2 and look at the pearl itself. Because, and this is key, the pearl's meaning completely changes as the story goes on. When Kino first finds it, it's pure hope. It's a miracle, a gift from the universe, right? It's the one thing that can save his son and give his family a future they couldn't even dream of. We're talking education, security, dignity. It symbolized a life free from those colonial chains. But the second the town finds out about it, the pearl transforms. It becomes the pearl of the world, a symbol of cold, hard cash that drags all the evils of the world right to Kino's doorstep. It awakens a terrible greed in everyone. And yeah, that includes Kino himself. His hope starts twisting into this dangerous, all-consuming ambition. And by the end, that beautiful pearl is just a symbol of pure, absolute destruction. Every tragedy that happens to Kino is because of it. He fights for it, he kills for it, and in the process, the very things he was trying to protect get destroyed. The pearl becomes this cursed object, a mirror that just reflects all the evil it stirred up. So, given that tragic journey from hope to destruction, it's really no surprise that for decades, most literary critics have all come to the same exact conclusion about the book's ending. And that conclusion is that this is a story of absolute failure. Just look at what Kino loses. His canoe wasn't just a boat. It was his cultural heritage passed down for generations. His home gets burned to the ground. That's his family's security, gone. And then, the most devastating blow of all, his son dies. That was his future. So in this traditional reading, when he throws the pearl back, it's an act of total defeat. He's given up. But this is where our whole explainer takes a sharp turn. Because there's a fascinating, much less known interpretation that takes this whole idea of failure and flips it completely on its head.
So, this counterargument from a scholar named Avis Burnett suggests we've all been looking at this story through the wrong lens. She points out that Steinbeck was deeply interested in Hinduism when he wrote The Pearl. And if you read the story through a Hinduistic framework, where life and death are all part of a continuous cycle of reincarnation, well, that ending starts to look very, very different.
In this reading, Kino throwing the pearl back isn't an act of defeat at all. It's an act of power. By willingly giving up the pearl, the source of all that evil and corruption, he's rejecting that world and its values. He's not destroying hope. He is recreating it on a spiritual level. He's returning to his family and his own humanity, now free from the pearl's poison. It's a rebirth.
So which is it? A bleak tragedy of failure or a profound story of spiritual hope? Maybe Steinbeck himself left us the answer right in the book's opening. He calls it a parable and suggests that its meaning isn't fixed. Perhaps the ultimate power of the pearl is that it acts as a mirror, forcing us to decide for ourselves what we truly value and where hope can really be found.